What's up, guys? Now, those of you that have been around for a while know that I have preached for a long time that for pilots, this right here, the Insta360 X3, is probably the perfect single camera for making flying content. The reason being, it's a 360 camera, it sees all directions. You can shoot and reframe later, which allows some pretty cool shots, and it allows you to get that impossible floating camera angle from these. Now, I don't shoot with it as much as I should, and the reason being is that this camera shoots 5.7K resolution, which sounds like a lot when you compare the camera I'm shooting on right now shoots 4K, but you gotta remember, when you're shooting an entire 360-degree field of view, that is not a standard view that we see. So by the time you crop in to a realistic field of view, oftentimes you're at HD or less with this camera. So when I want to get the cool effect of this thing, there's always a compromise going with the X3. That, along with a few other minor little gripes, is the only reason that this camera doesn't come out on every single flight with me. But as of today, Insta360 clearly has been listening, and they announced the X4, which is an 8K resolution 360 camera that is packed with features and answers all of my little gripes all in one camera, and this thing's awesome. Now, for those of you that are unfamiliar with what a 360 camera is, basically, it's a camera that's got two cameras built in. Each of these lenses go into their own little sensor, and each one can see over a 180-degree field of view. And the camera uses its software internally to stitch those together to get an entire 360-degree field of view. And what's cool about that is when you add on one of Insta360's invisible selfie sticks, because of the placement or the gap between the two lenses, the way that it stitches it together, it actually makes this whole selfie stick invisible. And that's how you can get those really cool shots that basically appear to have a floating camera circling around someone. It's with one of these. Now, what's so exciting about the X4 to me is 8K resolution, and I wasn't sure how much of a difference I would see going from the 5.7K on the X3 up to 8K on the X4, and I'll tell you right now, it's significant. And I don't know if it's just the resolution or it's also the fact that Insta360 has added different compressions to this that allow it to pack a lot more data into a small file and still make it easy to edit. So because they've added H.265 encoding, the processing in this camera is significantly faster, as well as the Wi-Fi. So when you're editing directly from the camera on your phone, it's super streamlined, super easy. Now, editing in the app is easier than ever. In the quick edit, you can obviously touch to reframe, but you can also just turn your phone, which will allow you to reframe. The other way you can do here, if I hit record, you can use the joystick on here to pan around in the shot, so you can reframe that easily. Again, just pan your phone, you can change the zoom angle, all of that, and that's how easy it is to edit your footage in the app. Again, going back to the reason I love 360 cameras is because there's so many cool places you can mount it that you can frame later. Although if you did want to shoot from just one side like a standard action camera, you can just put it in single lens mode and this thing will shoot up to 4K 60. So it's kind of like checking off all the boxes when it comes to a small action style camera like this. You get a 360 camera that can see the whole world. When you don't need it, just turn it in single lens mode and you can shoot as if it was another action camera. Aside from just being super easy to edit, there are a ton of cool effects that you can do in their shot lab, including the bullet time remix, which is going to allow you to take your bullet time clips and link them all together like I did here. Now, just for some quick specs, the X4 will shoot 8K up to 30 frames per second. It also supports 24 and 25 frames per second. I'm a 24 frame per second guy. That just comes from my film background, but it's awesome that you have options. They also have slow-mo options of shooting up to 60 frames per second in 5.7K or 100 frames per second in 4K. Also, the bullet time resolution's been upped from 4K to 5.7K on the X4. Now, from a physical standpoint, it's very similar to the X3. It is slightly larger, very slightly heavier, but one of the things that comes along with it being slightly larger is they have increased the battery size. So this thing finally has a bigger battery, which I don't think anyone's gonna complain about. It's a 2,290 milliamp hour battery. That's gonna increase the battery life by about 67%, up to 135-minute runtime. Now, aside from that, all the compartments, all the hookups, everything is in the same place as the X3. The only one thing that they've added, and this is a huge one to me, is they now are making removable lens guards. And this is so huge. The funny thing with what I do, flying with it on a plane, especially when it goes on the tail, and that's what happened with my X3, when you mount your camera behind your plane and you take off in the dirt, the plane's gonna lift up some dirt and blow it into the camera. And it only took 1 or 2 takeoffs with the X3 hanging off my tail before I nicked the lens in a way that is permanent. There is no way to fix that. And for the most part, you don't really see it. However, when you're, kind of looking at a lens flare, if the sun's hitting the lens that has the nick in it, I don't even know if you guys can see the nick or if it would be in focus, but it's just annoying that, after 1 or 2 takeoffs, I nicked the lens and it's kind of not usable. Now, they have fixed that with the removable lens guards on here. They have both standard as well as premium lens guards. The premium ones are going to have a better quality glass with a stronger coating on it. And I can tell you from experience, they work. I went and landed off field this morning up on a hillside, and when I went to turn around, I actually swung this thing through some sagebrush right into the camera and the lenses, and luckily I had the lens guards on, so it protected the camera. And that, to me, is just a huge thing. Aside from just shooting in like higher risk environments, the other thing is when you have a 360 camera that the lenses protrude out the most, aside from setting it perfectly on its side, which it doesn't always want to balance, pretty much any other time you set it down, it's going to be on a lens. So for anyone that buys one of these, I highly suggest you get their lens cap, the rubber lens cap. That's a lifesaver, but also get the lens guards. They are a cheap insurance policy. It's like a UV filter for an action or 360 camera, and that's awesome. And now, aside from the video side, they've also upped the resolution on the still side. This thing can shoot up to 72 megapixel still shots in their pure shot photo mode. It can also do 11K time lapses, which is really cool. And one of the features that I don't talk about with these is being able to do like virtual tours in real estate. I know there's a lot of guys that do that, and the Insta360 is the way to do it. I've also used it during construction to map out what's behind the walls. Basically, before we added drywall in our house, put this on a little tripod, set it in every single room, shoot a photo. Now you have a 360 view of every single room, so later if you go to add something or you're having to cut into a wall, you can know where all your electrical and all your plumbing's ran because you have photos of exactly where those laid out. Super handy. Again, that's kind of totally aside the point, but it's one of those weird features that I've actually used in the Insta360 X series cameras in the past. Now that pretty much covers the resolution and the, upgrades to that, being the 8K video, 72 megapixel stills. In addition to those, they've now made this a smarter camera by putting the nano chip that they had, I'm assuming similar to the one in the Ace Pro, that allows this to do a lot more smart, intelligent things, such as AI highlights, which is a feature that they kind of brought over from the Ace Pro, which basically when turned on, the camera through its AI processor is able to analyze the clips while you're shooting them and mark the highlights. So when you open your app later, it already knows where the best parts of that clip were. You don't have to spend a bunch of time going through every single clip finding them. It'll tell you where they probably are. They've also upped the data rate speeds on this for the Wi-Fi so it communicates faster with your app, which unlocks new features like AI edit. So even if you don't have AI highlights turned on, you can select a clip, go into the AI edit tab, and click analyze. It's gonna go through the entire clip and it's gonna analyze and figure out what parts of that clip are the best. And from there, it'll automate its own animations and keyframes to reframe the shot and make it look really cool. And it makes it super quick and easy. That, in addition to the quick edit, which is super simple as well, helps you get your footage out faster. And that's, again, one of the things that Insta360 is taking on head first, which is the problem that a lot of people buy action cameras, they shoot a bunch of stuff on it, but then the footage never sees the light of day. You don't need any editing experience to handle the footage of this. It's very simple to go shoot some fun stuff, open your phone, and put out a really cool video right from there. And just like all other Insta360 cameras, it utilizes their flow state stabilization, which I think is probably the best stabilization out there. They've got perfect horizon lock, so especially in a plane, it's a pretty cool effect when you can see the entire plane moving around, yet the horizon is holding level. All of this just adds to what makes the Insta360 what I still think the coolest way to shoot flying content. I'm trying to think of what else you might want to know if you're considering buying one of these. They've also added AI gesture mode, which is basically instead of the voice command mode, which they do have, you can just tell the camera to start recording and it'll start recording, but sometimes you might be in an environment that's too loud. A plane's a great example of that. If I was in my plane and I didn't have the cockpit audio hooked up to it, I could use the AI gesture, and basically you just hold your hand up like this, that starts or stops recording. Or if you wanted to take a photo, you give it a peace sign, takes a photo. It's great for when you're riding a motorcycle, flying in an airplane, doing anything noisy. Just an awesome little feature that they've packed into the X4. All right, guys, that pretty much covers most of what I am excited about with the new Insta360 X4. 8K video, longer runtime, removable lens guards, all of those greatly appreciated. So thank you, Insta360, for letting me get a sneak peek of this thing and getting to share it with you guys. And for anyone that's interested, make sure you check out the link in my description. It is an affiliate link, so I do get a little bit if you order from there, so that is greatly appreciated. But with that, I'm gonna go ahead and go put this on the plane and go shoot some more because I'm having too much fun with it. So I'm gonna wrap this one out here. You guys know the drill. Like this video if you do. Subscribe if you haven't. Come be my wingman. See you on the next one. Peace.
Inside. He put that record on again. Stay inside. The one that's 30 summers thin. Was a soundtrack spinning when he raised his kid.